This is approximately the center of old Stribling. Most of it would be underwater, but this is what it looks like today. Stribling News, September the 15th, 1938. Mr. and Mrs. George Whitehead and family and Mrs. Hattie Green of Granite City, Illinois, are visiting relatives here. William Green. William Green was born on October the 2nd, 1882 in Indian Mound, Tennessee. He married Hattie Mae Whitehead on August the 21st, 1902 in Stuart, Tennessee. They had 6 children in 12 years. He died in November 1971 in Granite City, Illinois at the age of 89. This is William Green's World War II registration card. William F. Green, residence 2203 Missouri Avenue, Granite City, Illinois. Mailing address is the same. He was 59 years of age. Date of birth October the 2nd, 1882. He was born in Indian Mound, Tennessee. His wife would have been the person who always knew his address. Her name was Hattie. She was also at 2203 Missouri Avenue, Granite City. William was working at the Union Starch and Refining Company in Granite City, Illinois. This is a Tennessee marriage certificate for William Green and Hattie Whitehead. It says that they were married on the 22nd day of August 1903. I believe the information I had earlier had him born in 1902, but I'd say this should be more accurate. Hattie Mae Whitehead was the daughter of Samuel William Whitehead and Celia Etna Martin, and the George Whitehead mentioned in the Stribling News was her brother. When Hattie Mae Whitehead was born on February the 17th, 1884 in Stuart, Tennessee, her father Samuel was 19 and her mother Celia was 19. She married William Green on August the 21st, 1902 in her hometown. They had 6 children in 12 years. She died on December 11th, 1962 in Alton, Illinois, at the age of 78, and was buried in Granite City, Illinois. Continue reading Stribling News, September the 15th, 1938. Born to Mr. and Mrs. Joe Reed on September the 8th, a boy who has been named Marshall Owen. Clyde Bird of St. Louis visited Mr. and Mrs. Will Tomlinson last week. Clyde Bird's wife was Lillian Reed Bird, which was the daughter of Mrs. Will Tomlinson from a previous marriage. William White Tomlinson, born 1869, passed away 1954. When William White Tomlinson was born on November the 4th, 1869 in Stuart, Tennessee, his father John was 39 and his mother Missouri was 21. He married Allie Bell Gray on September the 14th, 1910 in his hometown. They had 1 child during their marriage. He died on April the 5th, 1954 in Stuart, Tennessee at the age of 84. Mr. William and Mrs. Bell Gray Tomlinson. Allie Bell Gray, 1880 to 1968. When Allie Bell Gray was born on November the 20th, 1880 in Stuart, Tennessee, her father George was 27, that would have been George Gilbert Gray, and her mother Ida was 22. That was Ida W. Brandon. She married B.R. or Mark Reed, and they had 3 children together. She then married William White Tomlinson, and they had 1 son together. She died on January the 1st, 1968 in Dover, Tennessee, at the age of 87, and is buried in Stuart, Tennessee. Clyde Chandler Bird, 1895 to 1948. When Clyde Chandler Bird was born on August 19, 1895 in Dover, Tennessee, his father George was 33 and his mother Amanda was 31. That would have been George Washington Bird and Amanda J. McCarty. He married Lillian Reed on July the 27th, 1917 in Stuart, Tennessee. He died on July the 19th, 1948 in Chemistwick, Missouri at the age of 52 and was buried in Stuart, Tennessee. Dover native's body found afloat in Mississippi River, Dover, Tennessee. The body of Clyde Chandler Bird, 52, Stewart County native, was found floating in the Mississippi River at East St. Louis, Illinois, Monday. It was learned here today. According to a telephone message from his widow, Mrs. Lillian Reed Bird, to his sister, Mrs. M.M. Sexton of Dover, Tuesday, Bird had been missing for a week. Bird was a native of Stewart County, but he had been living in East St. Louis the past 20 years. He was president of the American Federation of Labor Group in East St. Louis for many years. Funeral rites will be held at the Leatherwood Methodist Church Thursday afternoon at 2 o'clock, with burial following in the church cemetery. Besides his widow and sister, here he is survived by 2 sons, Johnny Bird of Detroit, Michigan, and Ray Bird of East St. Louis, Illinois. 1 daughter, Miss Betty Bird of Washington, D.C. 2 other sisters, Mrs. B.M. Largent and Mrs. Hicks Stavely of Stuart, Tennessee, and 3 grandchildren. He was the son of the late George Bird and Mrs. Amanda McCarty Bird of Stewart County. He was a member of the Baptist Church. Continue reading from the Stribling News, September the 15th, 1938. Mrs. Billy Kibble and little son Kenneth of Erin is visiting her sister, Mrs. Albert Boswell. The condition of Mrs. Albert Boswell remains critical. School is progressing nicely under the management of the new teacher, H.W. Brandon. George Bird has returned to his home in St. Louis after spending the summer with his grandmother, Mrs. Belle Tomlinson. This is the obituary for George Bird. George Bird dies in East St. Louis. George Bird, son of Mr. and Mrs. Clyde Bird, died March 31st at his home, that was 1947, at his home in East St. Louis, Illinois. Very suddenly, he had spent a great deal of his life in the home of his maternal grandparents, Mr. and Mrs. W.W. Tomlinson, on Leatherwood Creek. Since his discharge from the Army, he had made his home in East St. Louis. He was 23 years old. In addition to his parents and grandparents, he is survived by 1 brother, Ray, and 1 sister, Betty, of East St. Louis, and 1 brother, Johnny, of Detroit. His body was returned to Leatherwood Church for funeral services April 3rd, conducted by W.H. Wiseman, with interment in the church cemetery. Perry Lane was in charge of the singing. Pallbearers were Wilton McGee, Charles Stavely, Buddy Lane, Robert Stavely, Fran Hittinghouse, and Harold Melton. The flag was handled by 2 ex-servicemen, Wilton McGee and Buddy Lane, which was presented to his mother. Wiseman Funeral Home were in charge. Mrs. Johnny Bartles and little daughter Patsy returned to their home in Detroit after a stay with relatives here. John Carl Bartles Jr., born 1901, passed away 1976. When John Carl Bartles was born on September the 11th, 1901, in Dover, Tennessee, his father John was 54 and his mother Christine Hilmus Bartles was 41. He married Helen Alice Berger on September the 14th, 1929 in Detroit, Michigan. They had 2 children during their marriage. He died on September the 9th, 1976 in Allen Park, Michigan at the age of 74 and was buried in Stuart, Tennessee. Helen Alice Berger, 1909 to 1996. Helen Alice Berger was born on April the 12th, 1909 in South Bend, Indiana. She married John Carl Bartles Jr. on September the 14th, 1929 in Detroit, Michigan. They had 2 children during their marriage. She died on February the 26th, 1996 in Wyandotte, Michigan at the age of 86 and was buried in Flat Rock, Michigan. This concludes the reading of the Stribling News, September 15th, 1938. Appreciate any of the comments or that you could make, and let me know you're still watching. I know on some of these life stories that a lot of times their children are not correct, the amount of children they have, and that's because a lot of times on Ancestry, not all the children are added by the family tree makers, so that's the reason you'll see that a lot of times. But I hope you appreciate it, and thank you.